Good evening, everyone. My name is Gunjan. I'm a senior MBA admissions consultant at the Red Pen. Today, I want to talk about European programs. So, we'll get started with what are the key differences between a European versus a US program. One is that, which I want to cover. The second part, which I would like to cover, is the comparison between the top European programs. And the third would be some application tips in case you are planning to apply to these European MBA programs. So let's get started. The first part of it is European versus US MBA programs. We get a lot of inquiries about, whether they should be applying to a European program or a US program. In this slide, while I'll be covering five key differences, uh, choosing a program actually depends on your professional slash personal goals. So I will be covering the key differences between these two programs, but please make an informed choice basis the reasoning that I'll be giving you in this slide. So the first, of course, is the program duration. European programs are far shorter duration than the US ones. If you look at Oxford, it's a 12-month program. Look at Cambridge, it's a 12-month program. HEC Paris, 16-month program. LBS, anywhere between 15 to 21 months program. Whereas the US programs are far longer. Typically, it is of 2 years. Of course, exceptions are always there. We have Kellogg offering a one-year MBA program as well. But generally speaking, European programs are designed with shorter duration. Having said that, of course, the rigor would be much higher because the same content of 2 years is packed up in a year, year and a half. The second key difference between a European and a US program is the cost involved. Now, circling back to the previous point of duration, the cost of a European MBA program is far lesser, anywhere between 30 to 50% lesser than a US MBA program. And one of the key factors why it's less is, of course, because the duration is much lesser. Another factor which you should look into if you are thinking of cost is also the opportunity cost and not just the money that would be paid upfront. The opportunity cost is the cost that's basically there when you are away from the workforce. So if you opt for a European program, you are typically out of the workforce for a year, whereas in a US program, you would be out of the workforce for 2 years. So when you are confused between these two programs and you're doing the ROI calculation, do factor in the opportunity cost as well and take an informed decision. The third part which I want to cover is around scholarships. Let's understand how scholarships are actually rolled out. So let's say I'm an alum of a specific school, and after I have passed out of the program, I want to make a donation to the program. So I make a donation, and that donation is a part of a larger fund, which is called the endowment fund. Mostly all scholarships are rolled out from that endowment fund. Now, there could be merit based scholarships, there could be need based scholarships, but typically what we have seen is European programs offer small ticket size scholarships. Whereas if you get a scholarship from a US program, it could be as high as anywhere between 40 to 100% of the fees is covered. So yes, another key difference is around the scholarship amount that is rolled out between these two programs. Fourth, international exposure. European programs are designed keeping a global cohort in mind. So, therefore, even the class diversity in a European classroom is far higher than what you would find in a US program. If I talk about INSEAD, for example, INSEAD MBA student body typically consists of 100 nationalities. So, one nationality does not have a representation of more than 15%. So, it's a very rich and diverse classroom. Whereas US programs are also diverse, but you would encounter a lot of US citizens being a part of the program. The other part of the international exposure is also the way the curriculum is designed. The European programs are designed with a strong focus on international exposure. So even the global immersion programs, if let's say a particular college does not have multiple campuses, they focus on international immersion programs like the experiential learning programs is very, very high. In the US also you'll have these international treks, but it is nothing compared to to the manner in which these European MBA programs design their international treks. The fifth and the last difference is to do with the alumni network. MBA programs were established, when we talk about MBA programs in the US, it's far older than the European ones. So naturally, the alumni base, if we talk about the strength of an MBA, of a US MBA program, it's higher than a European MBA program. For example, HPS has an alumni base of 48,000, but Cambridge has an alumni base of only 12,000. Having said that, uh, the European alumni base is more diverse. So you'll have like a very, very global, alumni across the globe, whereas the US ones are concentrated more or less around, the US markets only. I mean, you will have a global cohort across both the programs, but the European alumni base is far more global in its approach. So these are the five key differences if I have to talk about a European versus a US MBA program. Here I want to just spend 2 minutes and talk about us, the Red Pen. We are an education consulting firm. We've been to the business for more than 12 years, and we do various service lines, right from boarding school consulting to early advising, undergrad, postgrad, MBA admissions. Our clients have gotten admits to all the top universities across the globe, and we are also members of AGAC, which is an international body. So, as members of AGAC, we are a part of a lot of closed doors webinars wherein admission officers are invited to share key insights and new developments that are happening in their respective campuses. In this slide, I have done a quick comparison of some of the European programs. So if you see, the class size of LBS is at 500, whereas INSEAD is at 1,000 across both their campuses. Here I want to talk about INSEAD. While we have put it under the category of a European program, it's truly a global school because they have campuses both in Europe as well as in Asia. But just for the sake of comparison, right now we've put it under the category of a European program. Another interesting thing which you would notice in this slide is the age. So the average age of a European MBA classroom is slightly higher than that of a US classroom. And that obviously one of the key factors could also be what happens is that if you have substantial work experience, generally people tend to opt for a shorter duration program because the opportunity cost for them for a longer duration becomes very, very high. So they want to do a short program and come back to the workforce ASAP. So the work experience, if you see, is typically the average is anywhere between 5 to 6 years in a European classroom. Okay, this is the last part, which is to do with the application tips. So here I want to talk about some specific application tips catering to the European programs. Let's talk about resume formats. Now, unlike US MBA programs that do not recommend any particular resume format to be used, most of these European programs have a specific resume format. For example, Oxford, they have their own format. Cambridge has their own format. And sometimes what happens, I have come across clients coming back to me and saying that, well, we just want to go with the resume format which we've used for the US programs because we don't like the format or there are a lot of white spaces. But I would highly recommend to stick to the format which the school has asked you to submit the resume in, and do not submit your own formats. And also actively be on the lookout if there are resume formats, because this is a factor which a lot of clients tend to miss and then realize it after they have submitted the application. The second part is to do with optional essay. Both the European programs and US programs have optional essays. But if I have to talk about optional essays, for example, in the LBS application, I would highly recommend you to write the optional essay. I would not treat the optional essay as optional when it comes to the LBS application. I've myself had multiple admits to London Business School, and I do not recall anybody getting through without having written this optional essay. Having said that, doesn't mean that we reiterate the same information which we have put in other parts of the application, but this essay should be used very intelligently to highlight relevant personality traits or life journeys that would enhance your overall application. So please do write out this optional essay. especially if you're applying to a London Business School. The third part is to do with profile evaluation. European admission officers are very, very open to talking to you about your profile, the queries that you have around your specific, the specific profile queries, whether it is to do with a particular GMAT score, it is to do with gaps in your work experience, or it is to do with a backlog in your undergrad. Whatever be the case, they are very, very open, and they can give you very good suggestions on what they think you should be doing. So I always encourage my clients who are applying to these European programs to have this conversation with the admission officers, because sometimes what happens is maybe we in our heads think that okay, maybe a 655 is not good enough for this college, a GMAT score of 655 is not good enough, and I should be taking the attempt again to get like a 715, 695, whatever be the case. But maybe from the eyes of the admission officers, that's something which is not relevant, and they would in fact direct you to do do something else, which probably you would not be even thinking of. So I highly encourage everybody who's applying to these European programs to get in touch with the schools and ask them profile specific queries if you have, and get them addressed, and then work on it after you've spoken to them. The fourth part is, of course, the application form. So I always tell my clients this is something which they leave to the last minute, whether they're applying to the US schools or the European schools. Application form should not be left for the last minute, especially if you're applying to these European programs. So, these application forms, if have to talk about London Business School or Cambridge for that matter, they have a lot of mini essay type questions, not one, not two, but multiple ones. And these mini essay type questions range anywhere between 100 to 200 words. And then looking at it in the last minute, like last 48 hours of the application, is like is a big no. Why? Because these application questions should be attempted when you are writing out your essays. I always recommend my clients that please paste out the copy and paste these questions in the same document where you have pasted your other essay questions, and attempt it together, because in that way you will come to know that there is no repetition of content, repetition of examples, and you are able to put forward a very, very holistic profile, and avoiding all sorts of repetition. So this is it from me. If you have any queries around European schools, US schools, or around building your profile for next year, whatever be the case, this is a QR code. You could scan the QR code and book an appointment with us. It's a free profile evaluation, 30-minute free profile evaluation, which we offer and have your answers addressed. That's it from me. Thank you so much. Bye bye.